Common law versus civil law. Now, as I've already talked about, the basic difference within common law and civil law is that within common law there are two effective rules. Do no harm and no threat of harm to another person or property or their property. So if you don't ever do any harm to a man or a woman and you don't take their stuff or damage their stuff, then there really is no law that could be broken. Those are really effectively the only two rules or laws that we need to comply with in order to be living a respectful and honoring life with respect to the people around us. So the ultimate rules of common law apply to freedom, responsibility, and liability. You have the freedom to do anything you want, but you also have to accept the responsibility for your actions, and you also have to accept the liability for them. And we are definitely not trained that we have freedom, and we're definitely not trained to take responsibility, and we're definitely not trained to take liability. Therefore, we're effectively trained to not live in a common law mindset or by action. And the other big thing is there's no need for permission for anything within the common law. You don't need to apply for permits or license because, based on that first note, you've got two rules: do no harm or threat of harm, and you don't need permission to do anything, because if you need permission, it generally means that there's an infringement that you want to do with regards to somebody else's person or property, and you want permission to do that. And that's the only real permission that you'd need. So generally speaking, you don't need permission. You are considered responsible or innocent under the common law. So you are innocent till proven guilty is one of the famous phrases, which means that you are assumed to be acting responsibly until you prove otherwise. And you have the opportunity at the age of 18, 19, 20, 21, depending on your particular jurisdiction, to be considered liable for your actions in common law and responsible for them because you've reached a certain age of maturity where you should know what the right behavior is, and you become responsible and liable for your actions. Up until then, your parents have some legal liability with regards to what you do. So again, generally speaking, that still operates in all common law environments, but we do not normally understand that, and we always act as if we're in the Roman civil law because we do the thing that we really shouldn't do, which is look at all the thousands of laws, which are really acts, legislation, municipal laws that don't apply to a common law man or woman, but only apply to people who step into the Roman civil law and make an application to operate within a particular act, which provides limited freedom, limited responsibility, and limited liability. In general terms, all the civil law does is reduce your freedoms and give you the opportunity to reduce your responsibility for your actions and to reduce your liability for your actions, so that you can act in an irresponsible and non-liable fashion, which may be sound like a fun way, but it's really not a good way to operate a society. And we'd be a whole lot better off if people accepted their responsibility and liability for their actions. We'd have a lot less issues and situations. We wouldn't need the laws. We wouldn't need a lot of policing and prisons and so on if people were brought up to think in terms of freedom equals responsibility and liability. So they train us in the Roman civil law by teaching us to be these things and to ask permission for most actions. If you need permission for it, generally speaking, it's a Roman civil law process. And generally speaking, you don't need permission for it to operate within the common law. Now, again, we are trained and punished if we don't get permission, even if we know somewhere deep within us that we really shouldn't need to, but don't know how to apply it and defend it within the common law. We're generally considered irresponsible and guilty within the civil law. Once you're under a particular act with a license or a permit, effectively you're guilty until proven innocent. Now, they have to play the game within the court system that it appears that they're treating you as if you're innocent till proven guilty, but if you actually follow the process in courts, you notice that there's a reverse onus most of the time, and you're treated as if you're guilty, and you have to prove your innocence. The whole idea, again, the foundational philosophical basis of the Roman civil law is that people are bad and they need lots of rules to control them. And within the common law, it's the opposite. People are good, and with the proper training and responsibility and liability, people will do the right thing. What type of world do you want to live in? That's the big difference between the common law and the civil law. There's other differences, but again, that's just a fundamental principle difference that it's good to point out, and we'll go into more depth within further training.